Jam. Toon Jam.
Hello and welcome once again to Toon Jam podcast. I am Matt.
And I'm J-Man.
And you have joined us for a it's like our first repetition episode, really, isn't it?
Mm.
The first time we've revisited something that we've visited before. And today we are talking about Beavis and Butthead. That, you know,
Yeah.
you get the idea.
We'll just do that for 20 minutes.
You got what you came for. Sorry. Yeah, we watched two episodes. Well, I did. Did you watch both of them as well?
I did.
Did you watch any more?
No.
No. Okay, good. So we're level pegging. We watched Bus Trip and Prank Call.
Yes.
Two different episodes, different series, just picked out because they're supposed to be some of the top episodes, but they're only 5 minutes long, so I imagine there's loads of good ones in there. Or bad ones, depending on the rating. We'll see. A little bit. I'm only going to do a little bit of background info because we have visited it before. But for those that didn't hear that before, let's just go over it. Beavis and Butthead, an American adult animated sitcom created by Mike Judge, who also created King of the Hill. The series originated from a short that was originally aired on Liquid Television called Frog Baseball. I've not seen this short, but I've seen a little picture of it, and it's just a picture of Butthead hitting a frog with a baseball bat. So
I can imagine where that may go.
Yeah, it's just like splatting on his thingy. So after seeing the short, MTV signed Judge to develop the short into a full series, which originally ran for 7 seasons from 1993 to 1997. During its initial run, it received widespread critical acclaim, particularly for its satirical, scathing commentary on society. But it was also a subject of controversy for its violent content, I suppose, such as frogs being hit with baseball bats.
Yeah.
It says here, 14 years following the end of the series, it was revived for an 8th season in 2011. A theatrical feature film based on the series titled Beavis and Butthead Do America was released in 1996.
Oh, yeah.
Which you may remember. So 8 seasons, 252 episodes.
Ooh.
That's impressive. Yeah, to say the least. The season 5 having the most, having 50 episodes. But I suppose at 5 minutes a pop,
Yeah.
it's not as many as it sounds.
And they do recycle a lot of stuff as well, because obviously, you know, a good 70% of the episode is just them laughing to themselves on a sofa. So.
Just, yeah. Taking the
But
mix.
somehow that never gets old.
I know, I think just visually, it's a gag, isn't it?
Yeah.
Obviously we've seen it before, so talking about our memories of it seems a bit redundant. And we've talked about before our relationship with it in our youth.
Yeah.
So the ones we watched before, it was a Christmas one, but it was just them sitting on the sofa with music videos and just them doing like commentary over it, wasn't it, really?
Yeah.
Whereas these are actually like
the proper episodes.
Yeah, so proper stories. Well, 5-minute stories of just them in their everyday life. So you've got Bus Trip, which is them going on a field trip, which doesn't end very well. And prank call is basically just them prank calling someone until he gets really angry, and then he asks them for their address, doesn't he? And
Yeah, he tries to hunt them down, doesn't
yeah, he's like, "What's your address?" He doesn't know his address,
he?
so he's like, "Read the address off a piece of mail," and they stole someone's mail and just before, so they just read that address.
Yeah. They do manage to dodge danger quite often in situations like that. Mainly because they're so stupid, like they just they can't point it towards themselves somehow. Like I'm sure there's a couple of episodes where someone tries to come round and they end up going to one of their neighbours, like
Yeah,
it's usually like Todd or whatever, who's like this big angry guy that always tries to beat them up or whatever. But,
I mean, like they are well stupid, aren't they?
yeah.
Like so the first one, what, a bus trip.
Hmm.
Everyone's getting on the bus, and the teacher's like, "I love that. Are the names actually Beavis and Butthead?" Like,
Yeah.
names.
That's what they're referred to. That's what everybody else like.
The teacher's like,
registered.
"Where's Beavis and Butthead?"
Yeah. Yeah, you just don't know what their names are.
And they're just sat in class, aren't they? Waiting.
Yeah.
I love that they're like, maybe we're late.
Maybe we're late.
No one's in there.
Yeah.
But then they see it on the board, don't they? That they've got
Yeah. I love every time they attempt to read. It's just like their reading skills are so terrible. It takes like 5 attempts to get one word. Like, the file, folder, field, tripe.
Like it doesn't even finish it. It has to cut away.
Yeah, because it takes them so
from
long.
here. And then they just start mooning people out of the back of the bus.
Yeah.
Until they get moved to the front, and then because they hear the driver shouting at someone, they think that they can swear over the line of the driver's line.
Yeah.
So they just go to the windscreen and start swearing at everyone. Like,
yeah. They've got this sort of like really odd sort of like worldview where like they kind of make up that they sort of think they have a rational sort of view of how the world works. And then just kind of jump straight into it, like because like Butthead's like, yeah, if you stand in front of the line, you can do whatever you want. So then they just go for it. Like there's no reservations. They never test the theories or anything. They always just leap with both feet into something that they pretty much just made up, like on the spot.
And I love that like Butthead is the smart one.
Yeah.
And they're both so stupid. It's unreal how stupid they are.
Like you can understand now why they spend so many hours in front of the TV. Like you could imagine it would be mesmerizing to them because they find fun in like anything. You know, like someone says a word that's got like the vaguest of like sexual innuendo and they'll like chuckle to themselves for 5 minutes.
I mean, it's one of those things. Do you reckon Mike George knew these kids at school or something?
Yeah, I don't know. It does seem like almost too.
Like it's so. It's almost like they're so horrible that there's almost a bit of malice behind their creation.
Yeah,
because they're so ugly as well, aren't they? Like just so ugly.
Yeah, their noses are all weird, and like their jaws are like they've just got like the weirdest proportions. Like Beavis has got that like unholy like underbite or whatever. Like, and like when you see this profile, it's mental.
Yeah.
And then Butthead's got those like gums that just like constantly are on the show.
Like receding, like top lip.
Just slowly disappearing into his forehead somewhere.
And his hair as well. His hair, like he's got no sort of. He's got like a mullet, like a natural mullet.
Yeah, like his hairline's all bunched up. And they always wear, I mean, I guess that's kind of a cartoon thing, but they're always wearing the same t-shirts and stuff. Like,
Yeah,
but like, I'm pretty sure they do have other stuff because like they go to like when they're at work, they're in a uniform and stuff. So
yeah,
they're always just wearing the same. Yeah, it's pretty cool though that they have them wear like band t-shirts, which is like what
yeah,
they would wear, I suppose, if they were those type of kids. But then with shorts is always quite funny.
yeah.
It's just this like just normal like schoolboy shorts. It's a really weird outfit.
It's so strange. It's such a strange. I think what's strange is that you almost want them to get their comeuppance.
Yeah,
Like I'm sure I've watched things where, bad things always happen to good characters,
mm.
whereas these guys they get away with everything,
Yeah,
and you kind of want them not to.
yeah,
Like when they're prank calling that guy.
yeah.
That's pretty like so the guy goes around this other guy's house and then basically rams his phone up the other guy's arse, like right up there. So he comes out on a stretcher and it's like
It's just sticking
there's a
out.
stick in, and they start ringing him, don't they, to see if
Yeah.
everything's okay. And it's just like every time it rings, he's like, "Oh!"
So yeah, they dodge the bullet there. Like they're always doing that type of stuff. But that is the kind of stuff that like like kids back in the day would get up to, isn't it? Like
Yeah, I mean prank
it's not-
calls. We used to do prank calls all the time,
yeah.
mainly to each other, to be honest.
Mm.
But you would do them.
Yeah. It's not something you really get now, is it?
Yeah, I don't do. I mean that. Yeah, that's the thing. Do kids? I guess they do, but I know it's a bit harder just because you can always see who's calling.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've got private, like no number,
Mm.
but you just like the way our relationships with our phone now are so different.
Yeah.
You often just wouldn't answer it if.
Exactly. Yeah. People just don't bother now, do they?
Yeah.
Like the amount of people that just don't answer like unknown callers or whatever. Like I suppose a lot of people don't even bother calling now, do they? Like, everyone just texts. So
Yeah.
you just like like in this, like the fact that the guy had caller ID was like revolutionary.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. Like he uses it
Yeah.
to his advantage and they wouldn't even think of it. Well, they wouldn't think much, to be fair.
yeah, that's true. But yeah, nowadays it's just not one of those things. Like, but they find entertainment in the weirdest places. Like,
Yeah,
and I guess that is a thing of sort of like youth of the past where you didn't have like an entertainment center in your palms, so
Yeah,
you did
like-
have to find something to like, you had to make your own fun, didn't you? Like, all the
yeah. And I know there's a certain amount of like when we were kids,
Mhm.
adults would always say we had to make our own fun.
time. Yeah,
And then you wouldn't have thought that it would get to this point where, like, the fact that we can say we had to make our own fun,
yeah,
constantly told, like, I wonder if the next generation will just be like, their kids will just have like a wire coming out of their brain or something
mm.
and just constantly be tapped in.
Just little Matrix babies. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it is weird. Like, it's weird how much of a shift there's been in that type of stuff. Like,
Yeah.
because yeah, I suppose all the stuff that Beavis and Butthead would do now, like it's just completely different because they'd just be on YouTube instead. Like,
Yeah.
you think they'd be YouTubers now? Like, just-
YouTube on their phone. It would be something like
yeah, be a
constant.
different show.
Yeah. But that's the thing, I guess. Is there anything really like this at the moment? I mean, are we at this? I mean, this is a good question. Are we at a strange time where, because things have changed so much, it's harder for, like, these guys can write. So, how old would Mike Judge have been when he made this? Probably in his 20s, I'm guessing.
Yeah, something like that. I reckon.
So it's not too far from it. But making a kid's show
Mm.
and relating it to your own youth.
Mm.
It must be harder to do now than it was then,
Yeah,
just because of all the differences, like just the differences from when we were younger compared to now, and like keeping up with the trend and like all this social media stuff. Because now you like a lot of when you think like 20 years time, when we start getting comedies from this generation, this like teen generation now, how much of it will take place with like online stuff involved?
Yeah.
Like I know it already does, and people do figure it out, and not everyone's a flipping dinosaur, but it does make a difference, doesn't it? Because it changed like a lot of your stories you couldn't do.
Exactly, yeah. But that's why there is like like phones have kind of ruined a lot of like the conventional kind of kids adventure story, haven't they? Like because it's like all that. You can't have a Goonies now because it's like anyone has a phone. So like they'd be taking pictures of everything that they found. Someone had caught like everyone would know where they were at any given moment. Like it's just not the same. Which I guess is why so many of them are like you get the Stranger Things type of shows where it's like they sort of throw it back just so that they don't have to explain.
I know, and that's like I remember when because obviously the Stranger Things is made. I imagine just because they like the 80s anyway.
Yeah.
Wanted to do that kind of thing. But the only real reason to have that show in the 80s, like, other than, pure enjoyment of the era, is to stop them from having phones.
Yeah, because imagine that show with phones. It wouldn't make any sense.
No, and it'd just be, so many problems solved.
Yeah, like it'd be such a boring show. Just like, oh, where's Will? And it's like, I don't know, I'll text him. Oh, yeah, all right. Cool.
He's not answering.
End of season 1.
Yeah, find my friends.
Yeah. And then,
it makes a big difference, doesn't it?
That's it. And Beavis and Butthead are just in that time, like before all this jazz happened, where like.
But this is interestingly, this is the time when they've got that they're watching TV all the time, so they've still got that. They're not going out having a good time as always. So they've got TV, like on tap. They're basically just missing games consoles, aren't they? I think that was kind of our youth would have been TV and game consoles ruining outdoor activity.
Yeah.
As opposed to like smart devices that you can go on all the time.
That's it. Yeah.
You can go outdoors and go on them, so it kind of ruins it completely.
Yeah, and like when they do go outside, like Beavis and Butthead, like that's when you see them get up to their nonsense or whatever. Like, but like you can tell that TV is like the thing that takes them away from it.
Yeah.
Like, which makes sense.
It's kind of making fun of that thing that TV like it, as well. Like, I don't know if I made it. Wasn't there a thing that like MTV was kind of considered a dumb young channel,
right?
By like adults.
Yeah, and probably
So they're kind of like that's the satire in it. Is it their satire in that that stereotype?
Yeah.
Which is quite smart in itself. Which actually proves that the channel is not that. In a way, doesn't it? Like
yeah, it's the opposite. It's quite funny as well because like I guess you could say that like Beavis and Butthead sort of like was like the original like Gogglebox or whatever, like all the shows where people watch stuff. Like Beavis and Butthead did it first. Like we were happy to watch somebody else watch stuff and see what their reaction was. Like but they were cartoons.
Was Creature Comforts before?
No, I think that was quite a while afterwards.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Because I think there was a Creature Comforts short that was earlier.
Was there?
Yeah, let me check. Yeah, it was. I'm sure it was early 90s, if not 90s, because they did a first one. It was just one.
Oh, right, okay.
Um, and then they did a series which was much later.
Mm.
Um, yeah, so the first one is 1989.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Ah, don't know.
So who would have thought?
Yeah. Was
Creature
that
Comforts went
what
on
was
to.
that the same format where it was just like they just spoke to like the animals or whatever?
Uh, well, that was more Goggleboxy, to be honest, because they just spoke to people and it was like an interview of, and they'd just be sitting in front of a whatever. So it's actually nothing like. I'm getting my wires crossed there. Sorry. I'm only halfway through my first coffee of the day.
So
Apologies,
who can
guys.
blame you? Yeah. But, it's early
So
tea,
basically,
German.
basically, what we're saying is Gogglebox is essentially a rip-off of both Beavis and Butthead and Creature
And
Comforts.
yeah, yeah,
But who would have thought it's taking those two things?
yeah.
That's all you need.
That's it. Yeah. What a strange pair though, Beavis and Butthead. To think that they lasted so long as well. Like they're
No, yeah,
still kind of around, still still moments that resonate. I mean, like I know with the toilet roll hoarding of the of COVID-19,
yeah,
Cornholio was just coming back on the scene
yeah.
because
Well, we shared a meme, didn't we?
yeah, we did.
Not
Yeah,
a meme.
he does always need TP for his bumhole. So classic moments.
Classic
Like
moments.
Mike Judge predicted so many things.
But I would say this is one of the most sort of, you know, memorable things from MTV.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah, definitely. I
like
think
you do associate it with, it's an MTV product.
definitely, yeah, yeah. And I
Easy.
mean, I think it's quite a clever way of doing it because like the segments with them on the music videos, like that's a really cool way of like integrating like both sides of MTV, like having the animation and still having it be about music all the time. Like it's pretty
Yeah,
smart. Like I don't really know, I can't really think of another example where a brand kind of does that in such a good way of like
yeah.
mixing the two together.
And
Yeah.
I think like it's such a cool, like, even when it, like, the 5 minute format,
Mm.
which we've seen with Aeon Flux as well, because and we've talked about the fact that they just welly it in between songs,
Yeah.
but you kind of miss that
Mm.
way of watching, where they just chuck a load of stuff in
Yeah,
together and you just catch it.
that's it.
But obviously, yeah, like watch. I think if you can sort of take from watching all these, like especially with MTV stuff,
Mm.
it wasn't like an original format, and
Mm.
I can't really think of anything else that worked the way MTV did.
Yeah,
And it's something that you'll never ever get again
that's it.
because people don't view TV the way they used to.
That's it. It's changed so much.
Yeah, out of, I guess, convenience, but
Mm. But yeah, I
it's,
suppose it's weird now because it's like no surprises anymore because it's like
yeah,
you choose what you're gonna watch. Like there's no one in the back like, oh, they might like this or this is pretty cool
yeah,
and new that's coming. I guess that's the equivalent of that is like I guess like falling down a YouTube rabbit hole or something and like
yeah,
you
yeah,
know
exactly, or someone sharing something,
yeah, yeah,
Facebook or whatever.
that's it.
But I suppose it also goes to show why people are so invested in like existing properties.
Mm.
Because before you gave stuff a chance just because it was thrown at you,
Yeah.
whereas now you actively watch everything.
Mm.
Like you don't like, obviously you'll try new stuff out, but it tends to be on hearing it was like, on hearing it was good, or if it's well advertised or whatever.
Yeah.
Whereas before it'd be easier to watch something like this because you'd see it, and like there'd be people. I think the fact that like loads of people would watch stuff, like there'd be people that hated Beavis and Butthead, but they just would end up watching entire ones because they had it on.
Yeah, that's it. Like there's not many, there's not really many places where they've got a, you've got a set audience that are glued, that is, you know, you can sort of expose to new
Yeah,
stuff. Like I think like the only thing I can think of is like, you know, the fact that like, you know, Pixar and stuff still do shorts at the start of their films, because it's like,
yeah, yeah,
but we know you're going to go watch the film and you're sitting there like, here's some other animation that you probably would have never seen unless we put it
yeah,
here, right now, sort of thing. Like, whereas, yeah, you just it's so hard now because no one's, everything's on demand. So you
yeah.
demand it, and it's like, yeah, I'll watch that and nothing else. So
And
yeah.
time becomes more precious, doesn't it? It's not
Mm.
like, yeah, it definitely is the case. Well,
Yeah,
there you go. Toon
yeah.
Jam solving mysteries that
That never needed solving.
by watching Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah.
Who knew? Okay, well, on that note, shall we roll on to our ratings?
Hmm. You love classic 80s movies, and you love modern day technology. Well, lucky for you, all your favorites are coming back with a modern day twist, such as
E.T. Text Home.
Back to the Future, where we're going, we only need phones.
Terminator 2 Emoji Day.
Ghostbusters 3, emojis make me feel good.
Tron, aka Just Real Life.
Indiana Jones and the Temple of Zoom.
And Goonies, GoonTube.
Coming this summer, all your 80s favorites, all modern day.
Coming soon to a streaming service near you. Okay. Well, here at Toon Jam, we have a 3-point rating system. You may or may not know, but if not, it goes as follows. Thumbs up. That's cool. Thumbs down. Oh. Oh. That's lame. And shaky middle. Oh. Oh. So good, bad, sure.
Just in case you didn't decipher that yourself.
Yeah. So Beavis and Butthead, take 2, the proper episodes. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a classic bit of 90s teen nonsense. Like it's a cool kind of window into probably people that don't really exist, but there might be the handful out there that are that horrible to be around 24/7. It's it's they're such fun, odd characters. Like like I said, still pretty fun today. Like just sitting there laughing, chuckling away. There's something to that like this doesn't seem to get old for some bizarre reason. And like the fact that they end up on their own weird little adventures, despite there not being much there, is quite fun to see. I mean, it's not that fun to look at, but you know that's kind of part of it as well. Like it's all kind of pretty horrible. But you know, even with as little dialogue as there is, just them grunting and whatever, like it's an enjoyable watch. You can't help but sort of either chuckle to yourself or be like, oh, that's horrible.
Yeah.
They're just such a weird pair. Yeah, I mean, in such small chunks as well, you can't really complain. It's not overdone almost. Like you can just, they're in such a nice little bite size. You're like, oh, okay, yeah, I could have a bit more of that. So yeah, I think for me it's going to be a thumbs up for Beavis and Butthead. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's kind of a strange one because obviously, usually you always expect to revisit stuff because it either was a really bad example before or too much of a shining example and the rest wasn't. That's why I always imagined if we ever visited anything,
Yeah.
revisited it. But obviously, we revisited because we didn't feel like we got enough of it. And then you kind of watch these and you're like, it gave you exactly what you wanted.
Yeah.
Just a little bit more of them. And it's weird because they do pretty much the same thing they do in those, and they just like, and it's only 5 minutes, so really you're probably getting the same amount of screen time.
Yeah.
But it's funnier somehow to see them in real day, like their real days out and whatever, like time at school and it's just like odd little comments that really make you chuckle. And looking at it makes you chuckle as well. It's very enjoyable, and like I say, at 5 minutes, how can you complain? It's almost amazing that they managed to make a film out of this.
Yeah, it is. That is impressive.
And it was, like, as I remember, it was good. So
it was really good. Yeah.
So yeah, thumbs up. 2 thumbs up.
Beavis and Butthead.
Beavis and Butthead. 2 thumbs up. They
really seem like something that like would just die in the times. Do you know what I mean? Because it's such like a nonsense format almost. That's sort of like with 2 characters that aren't really particularly likable in a way. But, and yet, like, it's still like you're still like, yeah, they're all right. Like, it's quite fun to watch. Like, it's quite unpredictable, really.
It is. It's longevity they've got. It's weird. It's a weird. It's such a weird show, and I mean, you can see how he got given King of the Hill after this.
Oh yeah,
because King of the Hill is almost like the evolution, where you add more characters to the bag, and
that's it. Because Hank Hill's basically like there's like a guy in Beavis and Butthead who is like they bump into all the time. He's basically got Hank Hill's voice. So he's kind of like the opposite side of the coin.
Yeah, just like really mellow.
Like, really mellow, like law-abiding citizen who just like plays by the rules.
Dang good, Bobby.
What a guy Hank Hill is.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we'll visit that at some point.
Yeah,
probably will. But we have one MTV cartoon left, I believe, in our list.
Oh boy!
So the MTV Venture finale, I guess, comes next week. However, until then, thanks again for listening. If you either, if you agreed with us, if you didn't agree with us, if you just want to talk to us about it, whatever, you can get in touch with us on the 3 weird chuckles of the internet: Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at ToonJamPod. At ToonJamPod. And so please hit us up with anything if you fancy it. If you've got any recommendations, obviously the MTV saga is ending soon, so we'll be moving on to other stuff. Maybe we should probably just do some normal ones for a bit. So if there's anything you want us to cover, please feel free. Any time, any time period, whatever. Just we ask, keep it 20 mins or below. That's all we ask. Otherwise, thanks again for listening. If you enjoyed, please feel free to rate and review us on whatever you listen to. And until next time, you stay jammy.
Hey everyone, thank you for listening. If you want to help the show keep going, you can be extra jammy by heading over to our Patreon page at patreon.com/toonjampod. Here you can get a shout out on the show or unlock bonus episodes. Ratings and reviews anywhere you listen to the podcast also really help us out. So thank you, and stay jammy.